Hey, I'm Caleb. Today I'm going to talk about 10 tips for anyone new to turning on a lathe. Now this isn't a specific technique video of here's how you hold your tool, etc. If you're looking for that, I'll leave a few links below to people really good at that. I'm going to be talking about some generic things that often aren't discussed or you'll pick up only after watching dozens and dozens of project videos, those little tiny tips that make a big difference. So stick with me and I'll show you how you can make stuff on the lathe too.
Sanding on the lathe is pretty easy because you can just turn on the lathe and then hold sandpaper against whatever you're working on. The problem is you're probably sanding across the grain, which makes the scratches extremely visible. Fortunately, correcting this is really simple. Before moving to the next grit, I stopped the lathe and sand along the piece to erase those scratches. We're actually just changing the direction of the scratches, but so long as they're going with the grain, our eyes don't really notice them.
Second thing, practice woods. You might think because you're practicing, you want to just use some really cheap material. Cheapest stuff you can probably find is going to be some pine down at your big box store. Get some 2x4s. You know, just practicing. Don't really care how it turns out. I really advise against that. That's going to be very discouraging because unless your tools are razor sharp, because soft woods and pine are soft and tarry, so they're going to gum up your tools really bad because of all that sap in it. The fiber is going to tear out super easy and you're not going to really be able to hone your technique very well. I really like turning maple. And if you live in America at least, fortunately this stuff practically grows like a weed. So really if you just drive around enough, if there's trees, you can probably find someone who's cut down a maple tree or an oak tree or something where you can pick up some scraps and cut them up and practice turning on those. Because the harder woods, you're just not going to get much results. You'll see some burning and some fuzzies coming off. You're not going to get a good cut to get that right angle. And even as your tools dull a little bit, they're still going to cut, not just rip shreds. But you don't have to take my word for it. You know, 2x4s are cheap, so don't buy 10, just go buy one, cut it up, throw it on the lathe, and see what happens. And you're going to realize pretty quick, like most people, that you just don't get satisfactory results with soft wood. You need hardwood. Jumping back to the lathe, I want to talk about lathe selection and sizing. Size does matter, of course, but a lot of people get preoccupied with the wrong size and just go for the longest bed that they can get, but really it's the girth, the swing, which is the distance between the bottom and the center, which is how wide of an object you can turn, that you're going to run into that being a constraint a lot sooner than the length. In most cases, unless you know you're going to be turning baseball bats or long spindles. Don't worry how long the bed is. Really 12-15 inches is probably the longest I've turned. In fact, I think a tool handle for a lathe tool I bought is the longest thing I've turned. Example, my dad, I got him a small lathe and pretty quickly he realized that they sold a bed extension, so he bought it right away, slapped it on there. Still don't think he's ever actually needed the extension. It's pretty common. But once you get tired of buying hardware, you're going to get into turning bowls, and bowls are really cool, but the size of a bowl you can turn is limited by your swing. So pay more attention to how much swing you have than how much bed length you have, unless you know you're going to be turning long objects. Or if it just makes you feel better to have a longer bed. I mean, it's your money. Do what you want. Point 4 is the lathe speed. The RPM's how fast your piece is turning, not how fast you're trying to like muscle through something. Whenever you start with a large object or an object that's rough and kind of unbalanced, you want to have a slow speed. And that's kind of the disadvantage of a lot of beginner and the really entry price lathes that just have a belt and pulley system. A lot of them don't go as slow as you want to, especially if you're turning larger pieces of wood. So if you haven't bought a lathe yet or you're thinking of upgrading, I really recommend looking at the ones with DC motors and the digital speed control, the variable speed lathes. They tend to be able to go slower than the pulley lathes. Quick thanks to some of my top patrons, Chris Harmon, Randy, Wilson Matus, Gabby Johnston, and Theramie Hopkins. If you like free plans and free swag, be sure to check out my Patreon. I also do a monthly tool contest. This month's question is your goals for the next year in your shop. So find the post, become a patron, answer that, and you'll be entered to win this month's tool. Number 5 is going to be real quick because you already know this, especially if you've done any woodworking, whether it's hand tools, machines, whatever, and that is don't use dull tools. As soon as you notice it start dulling or things just aren't going the right way, it's probably because your tools are dull. go sharpen them. If you've got a traditional tool, take it to the grinder, whatever you're using, sharpen it. If you're using carbide and it's not going right, guess what? They get dull too. They just take a lot longer. Turn it around, pay the $10, get a couple more inserts, replace them when they get dull. Working with dull tools, it's not worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it, really. Just sharpen it, just change it.
When using a 4-jaw chuck, I found that the piece needs to be tightened twice. I lock it down pretty tight and then give it a short spin. I see if it's spinning pretty centered and tweak it if it needs some adjusting. Once it's good, I tighten the chuck again, and it always surprises me how easy it moves after that short spin. Besides the obvious safety reasons, that second tightening is also going to result in better turnings by keeping the piece steadier.
6, weigh down your lathe. Even small pieces of wood, once you start spinning them really fast, have a lot of momentum and force. And if your lathe isn't tied, bolted, whatever, down to something heavy with a lot of mass, it's going to start wobbling and jumping everywhere, which you're like, I can handle some vibration. That's cool. But you have to remember, all that's going to be translated into your tool, and it's really hard to get good, clean cuts when everything's going everywhere. So my stand, I added mass because this is a pretty lightweight by just making a really oversized stand with like 2x4s, and I keep all my wood offcuts and hardware and tools and stuff in here. So it's pretty heavy and I don't get much vibration this way. But a large dedicated stand might not be in the cards for you. Maybe you're setting this on a table that you can bolt it to, or you have one of those metal kind of stands that don't have much weight you can get with lathes. Easy thing to do is just find some extra weight to help weigh it down. Some cheap sources are like some bags of sand or some bags of concrete. It's like $2 for 80 pounds. Or if this is, a brand new hobby for you, your mother probably wants to support you. A lot of weight there. Real quick, PPE. I always wear my safety glasses whenever I'm in the shop. If you're at the lathe, safety glasses aren't going to cut it. You really want a full face shield. If you don't know why, just turn long enough without one. You'll find out. Or if you want the shorter version, go find a Facebook turning group, and about once a week, someone's going to post the reason why. Just hope you're not squeamish if you go look for those videos. Also, lots of dust. I mean, you should be making shavings, but let's face it, if you're starting, you suck. So you're going to make a lot more dust than shavings at first. So a good dust mask is key, especially one of the fun things about turning is getting into the beautiful exotics. But exotics tend to grow close to the equator in the tropical regions where there's lots of insects. I mean, plants there try to kill you. So they tend to have toxins in the wood. You turn it, you breathe them, and the reasons for those toxins are to avoid insects, but you don't want to breathe it. So get a mask, and also general safety with anything that turns. You never want anything loose, so necklaces, if you still have your hair, put it up. You get the idea.
I won't pretend to be able to explain the right answer here, but getting your tool rest at the right height and distance from the piece is very important. And it's different for traditional tools and carbide tools. And if you change tools, like from a bowl gouge to a spindle gouge or roughing gouge, you may need to adjust the rest. And as you go from a rough square blank to a rounded piece, the rest is going to be farther away from what you're turning and may need to be adjusted. Just always be conscious of the relationship between the rest and your wood, so you can always nail the right approach angle to get the best action.
Yeah, I picked up this vintage lathe for like $150, but I didn't have any tools, and you get new ones for around that same price too. And you start thinking, you watch some YouTube videos and go, oh man, everyone's turning with those cool carbide tools, and they said they're a lot easier to learn than the traditional tools, and maybe I should start easy. And then you go, holy crap, that's $300 worth of tools right there. That's twice what I paid for my lathe. Is there a cheaper option? Let's look at those traditional tools. So you do your due diligence and look at all the online reviews and find out you can get, a pretty good set of traditional tools for less than $100 that should do everything you'll need for quite a while. But then as you use them, the unexpected happens. They get dull. So you go to trusty YouTube or Google and find out the best way to sharpen traditional tools is with a slow speed grinder. Well, you probably don't have. But only if you have like super steady hands and can hold precise angles. And if you can't, you should get a jig. And that's more money. Okay, so now I'm in twice what my lathe cost me and some carbide tools or traditional tools and a sharpening setup. I've got some wood, I'm ready to turn. Except I just realized I've got no way to hold my wood in the lathe. I need some turning centers. Or even better, what I found is what all the cool people use are floor jaw chucks, because I can put anything in there, and it's really the only great way to turn bowls. So I need one of these. So I get a spur drive, and I get a live center, and then the guy at the store talked me into this other kind of center because it's better when this isn't good, and sometimes I'll need that. And I also find out that lathe guys always drill their holes on the lathe to have centered holes, so I got to get a Jacob's chuck that fits. And after I'm done messing around with the pain that these can be and things slipping in the spur, I get the holy grail, the 4-jaw chuck. But then I realize for this to be effective at all, I've got to buy more jaws, because the set that came with it doesn't work for everything I want to do. Okay, so I've got a lathe, I've got turning tools, stuff to sharpen my tools when they get dull, I've got ways to hold my material, I've even got a little bit of wood someone gave me. I'm ready to turn? Sure, but you're going to get tired of making, chopsticks and candlesticks and other phallic shaped objects, because that's what everything looks like on the lathe when you start pretty quick. And you're going to want to get some kits, and those cost money. And here's the dirty thing about kits. There's a certain kind you want to stick with, because otherwise you'll find out that you need to buy things like this. This is a 2.04 inch drill bit. Why does a 2.04 inch drill bit need to be made? Because turning kits require the weirdest drill bit sizes ever that I've never even heard of. And I think that comes from manufacturers wanting to make hardware that's a standard size, not thinking that that's going to need an irregular size hole for things to fit and allow for glue. Anyway, it gets really frustrating when all your stuff shows up, but you didn't look at the instructions, and now you've got to place a second order to get a 2.04 inch drill bit, a number 29 drill bit, and a 57/64 drill bit. I've circumvented that hassle by sticking with threaded insert type hardware, and Rockler has a great variety of it, and they just released some new ones like the cheese knife kit, bar tools, some gardening tools. They've had some pizza pie slice servers for a while, and even like their salt and pepper shakers are pretty cool. Because the way these work is you have a threaded insert that uses a pretty standard size drill bit. So you drill a hole, and then you can use a hex key that fits in there to screw this into whatever you're turning, and then this just screws into the wood. That's pretty easy. The other nice thing is because you have a threaded insert in your blank, whatever it is you're going to be turning, you can turn that on a mandrel. So once you buy a couple of these that have the different thread sizes, and there's really only two sizes these normally come in, which is a 1/4 20 and 3/8 inch, I think. So you get those two mandrels, and then you can screw that threaded insert onto your mandrel, put this into your Jacob's chuck, and you're ready to turn. And if you're cheap, you can even make your own mandrel with like a lock nut and a bolt. The other style hardware I stick with are like these, and they just have a shaft. You can see they've got a little bit of material removed to give them somewhere to bite. So all you have to do is drill a hole and epoxy that in there, and you can find a lot more different kind of kits like this. Like this is one I found at a woodworking show. That's a nutcracker, and again, it's just a shaft. Drill the right size hole and epoxy it in there. And I'll forgive these kits because they're pretty simple, because all I have to do is glue this in, but this proves my point. Requires a 21/64 drill bit. Fortunately, if you ever bought one of these like 3-deep style drill bit sets, they have all the 64ths normally between 1/16 and 3/4, so you probably have one, but you only have one. Right here's my 21/64. Fortunately, in this case, it's a large bit, so it's unlikely to break. But yeah, why can't we use standard sizes? And yeah, I know, if 21/64 is a standard size, I mean, it's in a drill bit kit, but I'm working on my grumpy old man to get off my lawn thing, so give me a break. And there you have it, some of the things I've learned over my bit of turning and watching a bunch of other turning videos. I hope this was helpful and you learned something, or were at least entertained. And until next time, make time to make something. Maybe on the lathe.